welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. I said, don't say anything interesting until I press record. So here we are.
Deal. I'm happy
Now,
to be back.
yeah, it's good to connect with you. And I know I saw you very recently doing some pretty hardcore looking cold plunges outside. How was
Well,
that? Because you're in New York,
th-
right?
yeah, that the one I posted yesterday was actually from us doing that last Christmas. But I
Okay.
have been cold plunging. I cold plunge a few times a week. Today I'm going to plunge again after I go in the sauna after we talk. But I aim for
Okay.
like 11 minutes a week because I
Okay.
have noticed a ton of amazing changes.
Okay.
You've been doing it as well, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I do it purely for the okay, go be a tough guy, like, the whole mental
Yeah.
resilience thing. And then just the fact that like the dopamine, I mean, you feel like $1 million afterwards. I'm not necessarily doing it because I think it's gonna help me recover any better or live any longer. You feel so good after you do it.
Totally.
So
I was
why not?
buzzing the other day. I did it after a cardio and I was like, I can conquer the world right now.
Really? I mean, it's like, and we're all searching for these moments throughout the day and ways to feel good, which is why, again, if we're just diving right into it, it's why we're all on social media too much. It's why
Hmm.
we all eat junk food. It's why we all drink, all of
Hmm.
these things
No,
that
it's
we're
true.
doing.
We're all seeking these dopamine things, but the dopamine that like the from social media or food or whatever, I mean it's gone very
Yeah.
quickly. Whereas I feel like when I plunge, I'm feeling that for
A while.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel the same way about not to like to immediately get into all this like weird, woo woo kind of stuff. Some people may see it as more woo woo, but like the breath work stuff too. Like I tell
Hmm.
people, and again, if you're listening with your kids and you don't, this might be a bit more of a mature subject, but I'm like, this feels better than like being on drugs. Like you're able to tap into things, into your body's physiology and endorphins, all of these things that people do crazy, unhealthy, bad for them stuff to feel this
You can
way.
do for basically for free. You can do it and it's good for you.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's what I tell all my friends when I like try to get them to go to like a breathwork class with me or whatever. And I'm like, it's like doing drugs without the drugs. It's great. Why would you not
It's
want to give that
I
a shot?
know. I know. I
Anyway,
know. It's really cool because and like you were mentioning, the cold almost makes you focus on that, even if that wasn't something that you were focusing on, because you have to regulate your breath or else your body's going to be like, what the like when I think the video that you're referring to, we broke some ice and generally I'm in a trough, but doing it on that level where I'm in a huge body of open water, I'm touching the bottom, but it's scary and it's not safe. And if like regulating my breath was the first thing that I had to do, because I mean, the water was probably like 34 degrees. I usually go in when it's like 48 to 50. So that, I mean, that in itself was a huge jump, but then I find that that translates into any other stressful situation that I get into in my life. I'm so much better able to adapt to craziness that goes on at work or life situations because you have that tool of like purposely making yourself feel super freaking uncomfortable. But then it easily translates into, wow, I feel incredibly more resilient in anything that I do.
hmm yep. Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I think, I've seen some people have a lot of fun with like making fun of cold plunges on social media. And I don't take it personally. I think if you see something on social media where people are making fun of something you're doing and you get really worked up over it, I personally think that is because there's maybe a part of you that is unsure about your reasons for doing it or what, it's like the same with the food thing. Like if people want to
Hmm.
come after me for the way I eat, I'm just like, that's totally fine because I'm cool
Yeah.
with it, right? If you get worked up over something, maybe it's like something that's going on your side, but I always laugh when people are like, catch me never doing that. And I'll tell you the one version of it that I will never do. I've tried and I'm just like, this is not for me, which seems like the easier version is just like the little bit of like a cold shower, like 60 seconds of a cold shower at the end of your shower. I'm like, no, thank you. Like my
Yeah.
shower,
That's almost harder, I think.
I'm like, this is where I get to just relax in a
Yeah.
steamy, hotter than is probably healthy time for myself. And this is what I like to do. I'm not ruining that with cold at the end. No, thank you. I'll jump in a freezing cold lake, but I'm not taking a cold shower. Like that's not for me. So anyway, it's all what makes you feel good,
Totally.
at the end of the day. Okay. So that was like a little aside. talk about some other things. First of all, before we dive into some of the topics that I actually want to talk to you about, if you can just sort of remind our listeners who you are, what you're doing these days. The last time we talked for a podcast, it was, I want to
Was it a
say
year
like,
ago?
I think it might have been more than that. But anyway, we were kind of, I know we spent some time talking about how both of our jobs had kind of changed since, pandemic stuff and
Yep.
how we've kind of made some adjustments. But,
Mhm.
what's your life and work and what's everything like? How's it going right now? What are you up to? What are you doing?
It's going really well. I am doing a lot of online stuff, which definitely is where my business pivoted during COVID. I still have my in-office that I love. And I still do chiropractic care, but most of my clinic is functional telehealth, functional medicine, which is amazing. I love it. I'm such a homebody, so I don't hate it at all. That's been super fun. I've done a lot of health retreats. We have one coming up in May, and this will be our seventh. So that's been a lot of fun. We've been doing a lot of those because I don't know. One thing that I found was I really like having a tribe of people that like to do fun things, whether you're on my level or not, or whether we're all on the same level or agree on everything. It's cool to just bring people together to have a weekend based around being social, but also having like a wellness component. So that's been super fun diving into that a lot. Um, Still training, working out, and we just actually moved our gym from our garage to our basement, which I hate doing that because I love just having all the space, the door open, but it's cold here. And so that's not feasible. My car goes in there now. So, but yeah, I mean, life is just, I can't believe how fast the year has gone, but same old, but
Yeah.
continuing to just kind of find all these fun things. I'd say the retreats are like one of the more newer like ventures, things that we've been doing since we last caught up, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's talk about this because I get your newsletter, I see the stuff, and I'm always thinking like that would be one I'd like to. I mean, I see a lot of these retreats and all of them, look cool. It's whatever. Some kind of are more my style than others, but yours always look like a good time. And I love what you're saying about this. I think one of the things that came out of, the pandemic is we're all probably less social. We're all probably
Hmm.
doing a little bit less for the most part, but maybe we're finding like we've kind of crystallized what we want to be doing socially and what really makes us feel good and what really kind of like fills our cup. And it's funny because I was doing these sort of events before the pandemic that were like little just like nighttime. It's almost like a wellness expo or trade show, but it was like one night. It was like a couple hours, right? I was calling them human
Yeah.
potential parties. Yeah, and had a couple of those. And that was my version of what you're talking about that I really enjoyed because it was, again, for someone like me who's an introvert, who even the idea of spending like a couple days with a bunch of people, I'm still a little bit like, oh, I have to like be social for that long. But like a couple hours, you go
Yeah, it's
somewhere,
totally doable.
people come together, you eat some healthy food, you learn some stuff, you get some little treaties, you go home. Like I love that. And I really was enjoying it. And it kind of really just sort of collapsed, obviously, when we weren't allowed to go out anywhere. And I've been like
Yep.
thinking about maybe doing this again
You
purely as
should.
a, yeah, like to your point of just like not even necessarily as a professional thing so much
No, but
as
just getting people together.
that's it. So for yours, is yours like because I know a lot of these they have a theme in addition to wellness of like maybe it's like women's focused or like
Hmm.
couples or whatever. Is there any kind of like other theme that, or is it just like let's get together and like be healthy and do stuff and be outdoors and what is it?
Kind of that. I mean, we definitely like my keynote talks that I'll do definitely differ. Like last one was super hormone focused. I feel like in the springtime we lean into like cleansing and just kind of like honoring like the different season that we might be in, because the spring is a good time, like where allergies and all these things are more prevalent. So like focusing on the liver and all that. So we kind of do stuff like that. But I'd say the main premise stays the same of always whole farm to table meals is obviously changing based on the season, what we can get. And what I like about it too is it's not just, a typical meditation yoga retreat. Like we're active. We're doing workouts that are scalable. We're taking you on hikes. We're doing I know because we can bridge, like we can do yoga and mindfulness, but we also can push ourselves. And I think it's good to have that balance. And another one of my good friends locally that we've connected, she's kind of now branching into the same type of thing. We're doing like a ladies' night out at a farm to table, which you would love. One of our entree or our appetizers is a offal meatball with liver. Because it's like I just love having these events where it's like, hey, I want to show you how you can make food super good or how you can be social but also be healthy at the same time. So I mean, I think but to your point, you can totally do that either on a weekend scale or even just a nightly scale. I mean, especially with all the cookbooks and stuff that you have,
Oh,
all
thank
your
you. Nice
recipes.
plug. Yeah. And I like too that I think this little stepping outside of your comfort zone can sometimes be more fun and a little bit less scary when you're doing it with other people. Like this,
Totally.
like, okay, well, if everybody's having, liver meatballs, maybe I'll just try one. It's not a big deal. I don't have
Yeah,
to make it myself or, this
exactly. That
like,
whole barrier of entry is gone of like, you don't have to prepare anything. You don't have to look at it. But then
mhm.
you try it and you're like, oh, I feel really good. So now I feel comfortable enough that maybe I can make it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. So for the retreats, how many of those are you doing a year?
Uh, Generally two. I mean, the one that we've got coming up in January that's just like the nighttime, that's kind of more of like a ladies' night out. I wouldn't consider that a retreat. I do want to have like more mini type pop-up things because they're so much fun. But in terms of
Mhm.
like main retreats, we're generally doing about two a year,
Okay.
which, who knows if that'll change. But for now, it's a good schedule.
Because they are a lot of work. It's a
Yeah,
lot
they
of
are.
like administration and
Oh
logistics
yeah.
and yeah.
Marketing and planning. I mean, we plan the whole menu. We have to we source everything as local as we can. So I mean, there's so much that goes into the swag and it's
Mhm.
I mean, it's like a 3-day wedding. I mean, obviously
Mhm.
there's not as many people, right? There's not hundreds of people, but I mean, to the
Yeah,
extent when you're doing multiple of them a year, it definitely adds up. But I mean, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
right. How far away are you from Manhattan?
About 5 hours.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, next time I'm on my a little trip, I can just kind of like veer over, but it's pretty far. It's pretty far.
No, I mean, it's a 45-minute flight for us. So it's way
Right.
easier for us to just like,
Fly.
but I know, yeah, people are like, oh, you're in New York. I'm like, I am not close to the city.
Yeah. New York
I
is
am not
big.
close to the city.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you mentioned just now that, you're doing kind of some talks during these retreats and stuff. And you talked about the concept of like a cleanse and sort of
Hmm.
seasonal changes and ways you may treat your body differently depending on the season.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, a good segue into the kind of conversation I want to have. I want to talk about cleanses. I want to talk about parasite cleanses. I want to talk about gut health. All of
Hmm.
this is interesting. It's all
Hmm.
complex. It's
Yes.
all like sort of evergreen in terms of everybody is always trying to figure out their gut health.
Right.
And also selfishly, I reached out to you offline because I'm going on a trip down south in January. And I mean, listen, I before pre-pandemic, pre-kid, I traveled all the time. I went to a lot of crazy places. I wasn't
Hmm.
particularly worried about this stuff. But now that I'm traveling with a kid, I'm A, more worried about him, and I'm B, more aware that like I cannot be taken down or get
Right.
sick because I'm not allowed anymore because I just have to be able to take care of him. So I'm a little
Right.
bit more paranoid of things. Like I've got the classic mom brain now of like, oh my God, is he going to get a parasite while we're there? And is he going to get sick? And he's going to touch the water and he's going to get sick, all this stuff. So I'm like, spiraling. So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about if you have any advice. This is where we can start and see where the conversation
Sure.
goes, but like advice in terms of how to best like prep yourself for a trip where everything's going to be different, and also maybe some key things to avoid or be aware of, and then how to kind of maybe manage things and get back on track when you get back from a trip like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, and whether I guess you're flying domestically or internationally, I always like to have like kind of essentials with me. Like I don't need to go overboard with the supplements and stuff, but I know for me that just being on an airplane and the pressure of it, it totally throws off my digestive system. And there's nothing worse than when you want to be in a bikini all week feeling backed up and constipated, which is probably like the most important aspect to kind of gut health is making sure that our bowels are regular every single day. And traveling, being thrown off of a schedule, even if you're driving somewhere, people can get thrown off. But for flying purposes, I know that I'm more susceptible to that. So when I'm thinking of, okay, we're going XYZ, I want to make sure that I have my magnesium, I have my probiotics, I have like bowel moving herbs if I need to, because there is literally nothing worse than not having those. And
Mhm.
I think those are pretty standard supplements, things that I take on a daily basis, or if I don't take as much consistently here, I know that my body might need a little bit more support. Obviously, hydration is really key to that too. We can
Wait, let me
get
stop you
so
before we go further. What are some bowel moving herbs?
ooh, senna's really good. I really like aloe vera juice or aloe vera. You can get that in an herb form as well. But the juice form is super great too. It's super anti-inflammatory. Ginger is
How
actually
much?
really good.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you a billion times.
That's okay.
The aloe vera juice, is that
Uh-huh.
like, would you drink, you're drinking like a shot of that a day,
Yeah.
or can you have a cup of it? So it's just small
Yeah,
amount.
I generally put probably a shot's worth, maybe even less than that, in like warm lemon water in the morning. I do it every day. People, if they want to just do it to kind of go through and, it's great for reflux too. But like if you want to reduce any type of inflammation, you can do it as needed. But I do a shot probably worth of it every single day or more if I'm feeling like my bowels are slow. Peppermint and ginger are really good too. Peppermint stimulates digestion on a little bit different of an aspect, whereas ginger helps to actually move gut motility. So if you are someone who struggles with slow gut motility, ginger's great. I like both of those too, especially when I'm traveling, because if I get motion sickness or nauseous, those are really great for that as well, because I don't want to feel like crap. So, especially, I'm assuming you're flying, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, those are definitely, I'd say, my go-to. I mean, I've brought like ginger tea before so that when I'm on the flight and they bring hot water, I'll kind of have like ginger tea or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely that weird crunchy person when I travel that has like my whole stuff of like any herb or ailment that I need, because
Smart.
I'm
Why
going
not?
for, I'm going for a good time and I don't want to feel crappy.
Hmm.
I
I've
want to be
always
productive.
I found a good, like a very easy tip, but it made a huge difference for me traveling. And this is obviously different if you're like traveling, if you're going to be on a plane for like 10 hours or something. But if you're going on a flight that's like 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours, depending on what your diet is like, just not eating on the plane makes such a big difference. Like
Hmm.
stay hydrated, but like, do you need to eat? Like you're in that gross environment. It's so dry. You're probably going to be a little dehydrated. It's just
Hmm.
everything about it is yucky. And then you're eating, and even if you're eating healthy stuff, okay, fine. But like you're eating gross pretzels that they're giving you or something, like you are literally setting yourself up for a
Feeling
bad time.
super inflamed
Yeah.
for
So it's like
sure.
if you can just eat before you get on the plane, eat when you get off the plane, like that to me actually has made a massive difference in my just overall feeling okay when I'm traveling. So anyway, that's
No, it
another
makes
tip.
sense. And I definitely agree with that. If I have to, I will. But if it's a short enough plane ride where I can just eat before, I don't worry about it.
Hmm. Okay. And then what about like, obviously anybody can Google tips of like, if you're going down south or if you're going to a place where like the water is super different and blah, blah. It's like, don't drink the water,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Don't eat fruit that like it's got to be peelable or whatever, like the smart kind of common sense stuff.
You
But
know what's a big one though that people don't think about is
mm,
lettuce. Lettuce is a big
mm,
one.
mm.
My friend actually had that happen to her in the DR. She's like going through, she's like, I don't think I had any dairy. And I was like, nothing that you just mentioned had dairy, but you said you had salad, which had lettuce that they probably washed with the water, or just, I mean, it's so, even here it can be contaminated with stuff. So
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say just be careful with stuff like that. Not that you
Good
can't have it, but
good advice is just skip lettuce. It's
yeah, just
pointless.
skip lettuce. Eat
Lettuce
the meat
is
that's cooked.
pointless. I mean, I will say, I think with some of the like, we're going to Mexico and some of the like better, I want to say some of the better resorts and stuff, like they're going to be not using their water for like ice
Right.
cubes and cleaning because like they don't want everybody going there to get
And
the
getting
poops.
sick.
It's not going to help their, tourism at all. So, but what about when you're coming back, so you've spent a week, maybe you've had more drinks than you want to.
Hmm.
Maybe you did get a little bit of something for a day because you ate some
Hmm.
lettuce or something. Like, what are the ways to like immediately kind of just get back on track?
So, general kind of wellness stuff, there's a few different things that you can do. Definitely, if you haven't been on a probiotic when you were traveling, maybe you didn't bring it, I'd say get on a good spore-based probiotic. I like the Megaspore a lot. There's a few good ones out there, but getting on some type of probiotic to kind of repopulate your gut with all the good stuff. With that, you can maybe do like a prebiotic or prebiotic rich foods. if you did kind of pick up a bug or maybe don't feel 100% right, there's a few different, I like activated charcoal, but with activated charcoal or any binder like bentonite clay, you just don't want to take it near any other foods because it binds your minerals. So that's fine to do on an empty stomach, and maybe that's fine to do for a few days. But if you feel like I don't feel right, this is something that I have to like, maybe you did pick up something, then maybe you want to work into something more like maybe like anti-parasitic herbs or something like that. And there's a few different ones like clove, black walnut, mimosa pudica seed, all those different things kind of help to just draw stuff out that maybe, you picked up through water or whatever. I mean, stuff happens. I think the first few times that I went to like Mexico or the Dominican Republic, I'm like, oh my God, I'm washing my toothbrush and I didn't even think about it. And then I'm like, oh, no wonder I feel off, a little bit. So, and that's also probably why I've past some things in my time because I probably picked it up just through travel or whatever. But those are, I'd say, are general things. I really like castor oil packs. Those are great for liver health. So if you did have some drinks or if bowels were a little bit slow, I'm again that weirdo that I will travel with mine and wear it every single night. I know it's super sexy, like you're on a super romantic trip and you're just with your castor oil pack. I'm with my red light blockers, or my red glasses.
I have a
blue light blockers.
2-year-old, so I mean, this is not going to be a super
Yeah.
sexy trip. This is going to be us watching a kid, but in a sunny place. So that's
exactly. So it's going to be great. So it's like home, but in a sunny place.
Exactly.
So I do travel with mine, but that's a great thing that you can do to kind of clean stuff out. I mean, it helps boost glutathione, helps move stuff through the GI tract. It helps to just kind of support that liver gallbladder to, purge anything that might have been stagnant or different from if you were eating maybe more fatty foods or foods that maybe were fried or just things that you maybe are not used to. I mean, everybody's kind of travel looks a little bit different, but I feel like you could take really any of these things and implement them no matter if you were drinking or not, or if you were eating foods that you aren't used to or not, because it just kind of helps reset everything.
Talk to me more about the castor oil pack because I feel like I don't really understand what it is, and B, it sounds like something that, again, I straddle the line between a lot of like, let's just be straightforward here and let's do some like experimental woo-woo stuff. But there's something about the castor oil pack. I'm like, how could that work? It's like you're putting something on your stomach and it's helping. What is happening there? Tell me about it.
So so essentially I use organic castor oil and then a wool flannel. And so the wool organic flannel helps to heat the area because I have my hand on my liver because that's generally where you put it. I put it generally on my liver, but the castor oil is cool because it's able to transdermally help to stimulate the liver and gallbladder. So like as the oil sits on your skin with the heat from the pack and the coverage on the pack, the heat helps to activate the purging of the liver gallbladder duct. So it helps to not only do that, but boost glutathione production. So glutathione is like our body's master antioxidant that our liver does make. A lot of times for digestive issues, bloating, constipation, acne, hormonal issues, a lot of times that can stem back to the liver. And so when we put a little bit of focus there, I love having people try this for the first time when they don't have any really expectations of, they're like, I'm just putting this pack on and I think I know what it's kind of going to do, but I don't know what to expect. I mean, deeper sleep, people have reported, some people don't report feeling any type of like euphoric feeling. Some people definitely do where they're like, oh my gosh, I felt so calm because it does help to boost dopamine and oxytocin. It's like anything thing that you have on your body like that, it kind of is like you're giving yourself a hug, right? Like the oxytocin boost. So it can be nice in that aspect, but it was so crazy. Before I started wearing it consistently, I always in the middle of the night would wake up 1, 2, 3 o'clock, like always, which is when our liver is doing its most detoxification. And if it wakes you up, it's just, there's a lot going on. And so ever since I've really worn that consistently, I haven't had any issues waking up in the middle of the night. And I've had a lot of other people note that too. But it is kind of weird when you think I'm putting oil and a wrap on me. How is that supposed to work? But with the heat of your own body heat and how the oil, like how anti-inflammatory the oil is, it's pretty cool to see the difference.
I am skeptical about it, but I'm willing
That's
to give it a
fair.
shot because people are skeptical about eating liver and that has changed my life. So I
Yeah,
am
but that's
very
fair. It's
willing.
good to question things, you know, it's good to like, or at
Yeah.
least like want to know why.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, could you not then, because isn't it, something that generations past have, done, like they're not feeling well, you take like ingest a scoop of castor oil? Like, is the ingestion going to have a similar positive benefit for your liver than just putting it on your skin? Or do
That's
people do
more of a
that?
laxative, I'd say,
Oh,
ingesting it. I've never ingested it personally, but people do. Like if for people who do, you know, or have a lot of
you're really
constipation, it's
backed
just,
up.
I
Okay.
just really wouldn't recommend it because it's not going to taste good. And
It's going to make you poop.
yeah, like more,
Okay.
way more so than if you wore it on your, had it on your skin.
So this
It's like much more
transdermal
of an immediate.
situation, like it can, like if it's kind of coming, it's like, going through your skin and
Mhm.
it's impacting your liver. Is the liver going to, is it going to help stimulate the liver to like detoxify? Like stuff's going to be excreted like through, sweat, or it's help like
It's it's kind of like helping it to do its job, like what it's already
a
doing.
little
So
bit
your
better.
liver on a
Okay.
daily basis is already like detoxifying your hormones. And so if you're asking like, am I gonna notice like anything different that I'm
Mm.
excreting from this?
Hmm.
Not necessarily. At least I didn't. I mean,
Okay.
I have from other things like parasite cleansing or enemas. I mean, that's a different story. But from just specifically the castor oil packs, I haven't noticed, oh, there's what's that weird thing in my poop? Or I mean, I
Hmm.
haven't looked. So I
Hmm.
guess I don't know, but like I'm not like sweating a different color,
Okay.
or maybe I'm sweating more, or my detoxification is like a little bit more efficient, but I wouldn't say, you know, you're feeling detoxification effects
Okay.
from it.
I would be really interested. Like, I would give it a shot for literally, you were just talking about like waking up in the night. Like, I definitely do have that issue. I've had long standing issues with my sleep and I've gotten a lot of improvement, but I am still
Mhm.
definitely waking up pretty routinely, like once or twice a night. And I would be really interested to see, and it is around that time. So,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe I will look into this and I will report back to you on the castor oil
Yeah.
because I've seen it so many times from people that
All
I
over the place.
trust and I believe in, and so I'm just like, okay, it sounds so weird to me, but like you seem like you are, on the ball, so I'm gonna listen and give
Yeah,
it a
I mean,
shot.
it's been used for thousands of years, and like any like
Mm,
integrative or holistic cancer clinic around a lot in Mexico actually, and a few in the United States. I mean, it's something that they are very
yeah,
open about, like, hey, just especially because it's such a low barrier to entry, right?
right.
Like a lot
Low
of healing
risk.
modalities, like getting people to invest in infrared sauna, like higher barrier to entry. If you can go in one for free, obviously, you know, nice,
Mhm.
like these hyperbaric oxygen, like there's so many cool health things, but there's different barriers to entry. Whereas this is like wrap some castor oil around you and just hang out and see
Mhm.
how you feel. You know, it's generally low risk. It's pretty chill. And then
Yeah.
if you obviously are feeling the effects from it and everything, I mean, castor oil in itself is super anti-inflammatory. Just putting it on your skin, like I put it a lot like on super dry areas
Mhm.
because it's cold. Now
Mhm.
is actually it's actually really nice out right now, but like it's
Yeah.
winter, so it's
Yeah. How
cold.
often are you doing the packs?
I generally wear it every night. Like when I get out of the sauna and shower and do my skincare, I usually put it on. And I do wear mine to bed, but you don't have to. Like cuz it ties and like it's so it's not going to fall off or get all over the place, but I mean, I generally tell people if you're just starting to wear it, just start wearing it for 30 to 60 minutes like as you're hanging out in the evening and then take it off before bed. But you can
Mm,
work up to wearing it overnight if you'd like.
interesting. Okay. All right. So, next thing you mentioned parasite cleanses. This is
Mhm.
another thing that I'm quite interested in and also grossed out by. And also, like, does everybody have a parasite? How are we all getting parasites? And like, are most of us just living with it all the time and we don't know? Like, it just seems
It's
like it's
I
way
know.
more ubiquitous than I would like to believe. And
I
why
know.
and how and why?
So, I mean, we've evolved with them. I mean, they're
Yeah.
all over the place. I mean, they're not just in third world countries. Like they don't just solely exist in Mexico and all these third world countries, right? Like they're here. I mean, we deworm our animals every month. You know, people or generally, you know, when you go to the vet or whatever, a lot of it's not uncommon to deworm our animals, but we think for us it's
That's not
weird.
normal. Yeah.
Actually, it's so cool because a lot of my clients that I work with who might live in other areas, it's very common practice for them to partake in it. Maybe because they're more aware of what the exposure looks like, but I also think that our body systems aren't working as optimally. So maybe people have weaker stomach acid, because that's a huge way that if we eat it in food or something, like our stomach acid should be strong enough that, whatever it is, it gets rid of it. But a lot of people, whether it's constant use of antacids or just weak stomach acid in general, which can be from deficiencies and stress, just all these different things can make that first line of defense less helpful for us. But at the same time, I eat sushi. I love sushi. You can see it sometimes. Like I've seen so many pictures of like raw fish, and you can see like the tiny little, I've seen them in Wegmans before. I took a video once and people are like, oh my God. I'm like, when you're cooking these things, it's fine. But I mean, when I eat sushi, I'm eating the raw stuff. So I know that I'm willingly exposing myself to these things. We have a dog. She gives us kisses and lays on our bed and whatever. I mean, I go barefoot all the time. Barefoot's actually, being outside is another huge way. A lot of these things are super microscopic. They're not, we can't really see them. And so to an extent, I think there should be probably like a normal amount that like our body is exposed to, but when they get to a point where it's causing issues, whether that's, I see it with a lot of hormonal issues, infertility, acne, bloating, digestive issues. I mean, when it's creating, I mean, if you're sitting there and you're like, I feel 100%, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life, don't worry about it. I mean, do it if you want to, don't if you don't. But if you aren't feeling 100%, maybe there's a reason for that. And a lot of it's has been really crazy and eye-opening to see how these just gut issues in general can have crazy just effects on everything, whether it's skin or whether it's hormones or your digestion or your mood and your motivation. I mean, it really does go across the board. So it's pretty interesting.
And is this another case too, where if you decide to undergo some kind of parasite cleanse protocol, it's a low risk thing in that if the worst that could happen is it doesn't really improve your symptoms, but the best that could happen is it actually sorts you out and there don't tend to be, some negative side effects? Or is that not the case?
That's the way, I mean, I generally see it that way. I will tell you, people can get negative side effects, especially if they don't cleanse properly, in the sense where maybe they just think, oh, more is more, less is more. A lot of times when it comes to this, especially if you don't sweat and you don't poop every day and you aren't supporting your liver, or you live kind of a more inflammatory lifestyle, it's going to be a lot more miserable of a process for you. But if you are, doing the things, you try to sweat, you have regular bowel movements, you go nice and slow through these things, and generally, yeah, it should be asymptomatic or very minimal symptomatic. I mean, in terms of die-off symptoms, some people notice maybe like they notice like a little bit of stomach pain, that's very acute. It's nothing crazy. Or maybe they notice the urge to have more bowel movements, or maybe they notice cravings, any of those can be die-off, but any die-off symptoms can kind of feel sometimes like flu-like. I remember the first time I started going in the sauna because I sucked at sweating. I would go in the sauna and I'd be like, I can't do anything for the rest of the day. I feel so sick. And for me, that was just, I think I just, when things aren't moving properly and things are just stagnant, when you get them moving, it's a lot. So if that resonates with anybody, that might be a reason that you want to kind of stair step into things, as you should. But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely ways that you can make it more of an enjoyable process.
Okay. And so how does this look? Like, I know because the reason why I reached out to you is because we have a mutual client. I have a health coaching client who was working with you on a parasite. I believe it was a parasite cleanse. And so I'm like, oh shoot, I want to reach out to Halie and like talk to her about this too. And you don't have to give away anything that you don't want to give away. But for example, I go to Mexico, I come back, I'm not feeling so hot. I'm bloated, pooping's weird, whatever. I'm like, let's do this. What does it look like? What does the process look like?
I just use a few different combinations of herbals. So there's a few different companies out there. I like Cellcore's parasite cleanse the best. I think it's the most potent, but there's definitely other ones out there that people can use. But essentially it's anti-parasitic herbs and some type of a binder, because whenever you're cleansing anything, you want to make sure that you're able to bind out or essentially attach to whatever it is so that it's not like recirculating in the body, right? So I mean, there's a few different kind of combination of herbs that you can use, or there's like a tincture base or there's capsule base, but it's like you don't really have to change much about your diet and lifestyle. I wouldn't recommend eating like a jerk or drinking and do like partaking in those types of things when you're trying to kind of clear stuff out. But like whole food diet, lots of hydration, maybe get in the sauna or a hot bath, have those types of things. But then other than that, it's kind of adding some herbals. I like to add a few on an empty stomach, and then the binder you can just take with a meal. So it's generally pretty easy. People can live their life. You can go to work. You can still work out. It's not like you're strapped to the bathroom all day long. It's not that type of deal. If anything, feel like I don't really know that I'm doing it other than the fact that I'm like, oh, I just have to remember to take my herbals. It's nothing really like life changing otherwise. It's just kind of some targeted supplementation and just really making sure diet and lifestyle is, in a really anti-inflammatory place.
And how long do you generally see this process taking for most people? Like, is it like you buy a certain amount of this product and you kind of have to see it through to the end, and it's sort of like a few weeks or a month? Or
when I first started doing it, the first one that I did probably was 3 to 4 weeks. But I mean, you could even just start. It depends, because some people start noticing positive results right away. Some people, they kind of, because they're starting so low, they kind of have to chip away and chip away. And I'd say the whole process can take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, some people are still passing after that 4 weeks. And if that's the case, we can figure out, why are you passing so much? Or maybe we'll take a break and then you can revisit it. I generally time mine around the full moon, because that's when, due to the Earth's gravitational pull, that's when they're most active due to serotonin and the lack of our melatonin. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, you ask any like first responder or any shift worker, night nurse, whatever, it's like there is literally something about a full moon that just makes people freaking crazy. And it's maybe
ask a woman too. Ask a woman, because we get all weird around the full moon too.
I know. I'm like, is it the parasites or is it me? Because I'm gonna blame it on them.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna blame it on them. But like for me, I'll do one in January during a full moon, and that's just because that's kind of like when they are most active, and so you can kind of like get more out of it. But when you're just starting and you're going to be going maybe for a little bit longer, or you just want to get some symptom relief after a trip, it doesn't matter. You can do it anytime, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. This is really interesting. So that's a pretty simple process.
Yeah.
I guess the next question that I have about cleansing, because this is something I've sort of touched on here and there. If you feel like you have a specific problem, as you said, or you've gone somewhere and you're eating differently, or you've been in a different part of the world or whatever, that kind of makes sense to me. But there's also a pretty big industry around cleansing in general and doing regular cleansing. And I'm kind of the belief that we should be living a life we don't really need to cleanse from, right?
I agree.
So like if we're eating generally pretty good, if we're, taking care of ourselves, if we're hydrating, if we're sleeping well, if we're sweating regularly, things should just kind of, hopefully, knock on wood, be just sort of doing what they're supposed to, right? That's why we have these complex and amazing internal cleansing systems that kind of do this stuff. So what is there any benefit to, for the people who really like to be proactive and really, a little bit hardcore about this kind of stuff? Like you mentioned enemas earlier, which is an area that I have not dove into and personally have zero interest. No judgment, just not interested.
Totally fair.
You see like these health, biohacker people doing these like regular coffee enemas and stuff. And it's like, okay, but, and again, do what you want to do if it makes you happy, but like, is there any benefit to this, or is it literally just like placebo effect of like, it makes you feel good to go do a 24-hour cleanse and an enema and whatever? Like, is there any, in your experience, like any benefit to someone like me, who's generally, not the healthiest person in the world, but pretty sorted out? Things are pretty much doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
What benefit would I have in doing like a quarterly cleanse of some kind?
That's a good question. And I think it's super bio-individual, because like, are there people out there that they're totally fine and they're doing good and they live a lifestyle that, is very preventative in itself? That's amazing. There's also a subset in that and I guess I would say myself, like, I just feel like my detoxification sucks. Thank God I prioritize my lifestyle and stuff. So I know there's certain things like a diesel truck goes by me, like instant headache. Like I know that I'm just super sensitive to certain things. And so because of that, like I maybe drink a little bit more dandelion tea, or like I'm really diligent about my sauna intake, or maybe I take some extra glutathione. So, and I like to take that approach for anybody that, the general population wise, like anyone who's listening to this, anyone I'm working with, like, for you, you're going to be so different in the support that you need versus someone who maybe has a history of cystic acne or has super irregular periods and estrogen dominant. So I think it definitely depends. I think it's really cool to have these tools, have these herbs, have these modalities, but does every single person need to do them every single day of the year? No, 100%. Because like you said, we should live a lifestyle that you don't need to cleanse from, you don't need to detox from. But I'd say for me and I'd say like people that come to me that are, they're doing the diet and the lifestyle things, but they're like, I don't know why I'm not getting better. These things are super nice to kind of move that needle in the right direction. And I mean, and just the truth is we don't live in the same type of world anymore. It's not there's just things that we're exposed to, even if we're doing all the things, there's different genetic mutations that people can have where they don't detoxify as well. So I'd say it totally depends. Like I have to be way more diligent about this stuff than my husband does. Like he processes things so well. We eat so clean, we sweat. Whereas like I am like liver tincture. I got to do my dandelion tea. I know that I need that type of stuff, but he's totally cool because his systems, they're a little bit more efficient. So I think it ends up kind of boiling down to what are you predisposed to, are there different genetic mutations or things in your past or present that might hinder that from being optimal? Because people totally can be on a spectrum of, healthy, but then, some need more support than others.
Yeah, you make a really good point. Like, obviously, we should all be striving to live the least toxic life possible. However, right. We all have different scenarios, like, not even different predispositions or, physiological things, but also like living in different places and just having kind of different environments can make a really big difference too. So that's a good point.
For sure.
Okay. Talk to me since I mentioned it, since we're talking about poop and digestion a lot, talk to me about enemas.
Okay. So enemas are cool. I mean, I think
they're cool. There's the clip. There's the Instagram clip right there.
They're cool. They're cool. I mean, they definitely aren't for everybody. I think the first time I like made a TikTok about them, it went viral and everybody just shit on it. And I'm like, you're not getting the point. I'm not telling everybody you need to do them. I'm just telling you, like, these types of modalities have been around for thousands of years. And I mean, it's potent. I mean, coffee enemas in particular help to stimulate the portal vein. So like it's distally going into the rectum, but it's not like it's clearing out. It's not like a colonic, which those are really cool too. See, I'm the type of person that if I want to know and I want to have experience with these modalities, because if I'm ever going to recommend something, like I'm never going to recommend someone do an enema, but I've never done it. So I had to try it. I'm never going to recommend someone do a colonic who has maybe needed it and I've never done it. So I'm like, I like to try these things. But the coffee enema is cool because it's, again, kind of going back to the liver gallbladder, really contracting that. So the portal vein, your liver cycles every 3 minutes. So ideally a coffee enema is something that you try to hold for like 12 minutes. So it can go kind of 4 rounds through the liver. And then, yes, you might flush out extra stool, but that's not mainly what it's for. It's mainly for the liver, but like it can pass stool with it, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. And is that something you are doing somewhat regularly?
In the beginning of my healing journey, I'd say I definitely did it more regularly. Now I might do one once a month. Okay. Maybe. It's all cool. Right. I mean, I've passed gallstones. I have pictures to prove everything. If people,
I believe you.
I mean, it's cool. It's really cool because I always say the proof is in the toilet. It's there. Like, if you don't think that parasites exist, like, what is this? What is this string hanging here?
The like sound bites that are coming out of this podcast, the proof is in the toilet. Love it.
It's so true. It's so true. But I mean, it's just crazy to me that these things are what get the get shit on, but
Mhm.
nobody bats an eye at constant over-the-counter medication user. Nobody
Yeah.
bats an eye like
Yeah.
the line that's always wrapped around the drive-through, but it's like, I'm not
Yeah.
hurting anybody talking about an
Yeah.
enema. I'm
I,
not telling you to do it, but I'm just
yeah.
saying these things exist.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I mean, that's a very common thing, I think, in the more like functional, holistic, naturopathic wellness world, that people who don't question they don't question the mainstream sort of behaviors and knowledge at all, but anything that seems counterculture is immediately very criticized by people who don't really know enough to criticize. Like, it's one thing to just say, look, I don't want to do an enema personally, so I'm not going to.
For sure.
But to like kind of say like you're only psychos and weird nut jobs would ever do this, when it's like, you don't, first of all, you don't understand it, you don't know what the mechanisms are, you don't know what this is helping or doing, so like let's leave it alone a little bit. And yeah, like a similar example is when I was pregnant, and people were like, I had people commenting saying like, are you sure you should eat liver while you're pregnant because vitamin A toxicity? And it's
I
like,
was just going to say liver's a huge liver, and even beef. Like, oh, you eat beef, you eat so much beef. You drink soda every day. What the hell is going on in this
yeah.
world?
Yeah. But again, it's like people don't know that.
I
I mean,
know.
vitamin A toxicity is something that's very hard to get from whole foods, especially a food like liver that you're not
You
going to
don't
eat
need a
pounds
lot of
of a
it.
day. Exactly.
Right.
And there are so many more pregnant women in the world who would benefit from eating liver
Hmm.
than would be negatively affected by it. But everybody
Hmm.
wants to be a sleuth and a scientist when it comes to vitamin A toxicity. But everyone kind of like rolls their eyes and laughs and says, oh, pregnancy, when you eat ice cream all day every day because you have a craving, which actually probably if you were eating something healthy, you wouldn't have the cravings. Anyway,
No,
I
it's
could go
so
on.
true.
Yeah,
And I don't think that's the demographic of people that are like drawn to the things that we do. So we're kind
sure.
of like preaching to the people that are like, yeah, we know. We know.
Sure, sure. Everybody, yeah, everybody's listening is like, yeah, we get it. Okay. We're not, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, this has been super helpful for me. And I think it's also making me feel just like a little bit better because again, the things that I think getting older and then becoming more of a homebody through the pandemic and then becoming a
Hmm.
mom, all of these things have created this perfect storm where I am like worrying about stuff a lot more than I used to. And I'm sure a lot of women or parents listening can relate where they're like, yeah, I used to be like fast and loose, like the kind of
Hmm.
traveling that I used to do and the kind of things I used to do, the kind of risks I used to take, and sort of just be like, look, I'm healthy and resilient. I'll worry about it later. I don't feel like I have as much like liberty or comfort around doing that as I used to. So I want to be more just really aware of
For
what I'm
sure.
doing when I'm traveling to places that are, I'm not as familiar with and our bodies are not going to be as familiar with. So I
Do you have a
feel,
filtered water bottle?
my husband, who
Bless
is
you.
thank you. Who is a very he's like outdoorsman, hunter, camper, veteran, has all of these things. I don't know if we have a portable one, but I think that's a really good idea.
Clearly
Um,
Filtered has a really good portable option. I don't
I
know if
think
you've
that's a
heard of
good
them, but
idea.
they have a great portable option that, I mean, I've taken it everywhere and it's really great.
Because even just to like again filter like the tap water you're going to be brushing your teeth with or whatever, I think that's a really good idea.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Or, well, you have to, so it filters through like how you drink it. So maybe just for toothbrushing, like just get like a bottled
Bottled
water or
water.
something.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
yeah, for anything that you're drinking, there's
Mm,
like a filter with a straw. It
yeah.
works really great.
I mean, I also feel like again, we're going for 5 days. We're going to an all inclusive. We're doing that whole thing.
You're
So
gonna
it's
have
like,
such access to clean water. Like they're gonna
yeah,
have the clean stuff
yeah,
there.
yeah. I feel like it'll just be like we're gonna. I mean, again, the whole point of this vacation is not to actually relax. It's to have 5 days where I don't have to make a meal, and like do
Exactly.
laundry. So I'm super pumped about that. But anyway,
When are you
okay,
going?
mid January.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It's like the
yeah.
perfect time to get away.
It's going to be interesting though because I've got this I don't know if you've been seeing but I've been getting into running lately and my
I
birthday's at the
saw.
end of January, and so on my birthday I'm doing this 10K trail run and I've been training for it. It's been really fun because you and I have similar weather.
Yes.
And but I'm literally going to be doing this run after like a week of whatever
Running
I'm
in
going to be
the
doing in Mexico, which may
Oh,
be
are you gonna,
less
so you're not
running.
gonna run there?
Well, I mean, we might do like a beach run or something. I'm sure there's going to be a
Yeah,
gym. Like, I'm not going to like fall completely off, but it's just going to be
right.
like an extra fun transition where I'm going to be like
Yes.
relaxing, probably eating more, chilling out on the beach, and then come home to the dead of winter and do a run on my birthday. So that will just make it a little extra spicy.
Well, you'll
But it'll
have
be
all the
fun.
energy from the vitamin D and all the fuel, all the rice and beans.
There you go.
You'll have all the fuel.
There you go. Okay, that's smart. It's all about perspective, right? I like that. Okay. All right. Well, when's your next retreat?
We have the little like ladies' night out in January.
Right.
That's local here in the Finger Lakes. Our next retreat is May 16th through the 19th here in the Finger Lakes.
Okay. And what's the max number of people that you are having on these things?
That one we are opening registration to, I think, 13 or 14. 13?
Okay. Okay.
13.
Men and women?
They're smaller. They're generally anywhere from like 13 to 16 max.
Yeah.
Depending. The house that we use in Lake Placid is a little bit bigger, so we can have a few more people, but otherwise, but it's nice. It's like, it's kind of the perfect amount. It's intimate, but at the same time, you feel like you're in a nice community.
Okay. And when did you say registration is opening?
January 14th.
Okay. So maybe this podcast, I'm just thinking of when we're actually going to be putting this out. It'll probably be January. So I'll make sure I get like a link from you that we can put in the show notes, because maybe when this is going live, you guys will actually be like doing it. So
perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always great to chat with you. And
of course, likewise.
Where else can people, and also folks, you should sign up for Halie's newsletter because it's good. It's good.
You.
And I'm getting my head around more like getting back in the newsletter game and like providing real value there as I become increasingly disillusioned with social media, but like still need to find ways to like connect with people and stuff. I really like when newsletters, there's too many newsletters, just like there's too much everything. There's too many podcasts, there's too much everything. But like when you find ones that are valuable, that are like entertaining, but also useful and like give you good information and like, or whatever, they're good. Like those are the newsletters people want in their inbox. So highly recommend anybody listening to sign up for that.
I appreciate it. There's so much pressure on newsletter stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I already have a podcast and like, what else can I put here? But I appreciate that.
No, it's good. So where else can people, follow the podcast, follow you, learn more about what you're doing?
Most active on Instagram. My handle's at Dr. Halie Schoff, and I am on TikTok a little bit too, dabbling with the Gen Z a little bit, seeing how that goes. Then it's such a different beast. It's such a different beast.
Scary out there.
And then my podcast is Alpha Health and Wellness Radio.
Nice. All right, Halie. Well, enjoy your weekend, TGIF. We'll do it again sometime. And for anybody who's listening, they should definitely check out. I mean, you do provide a ton of value in a ton of different areas. So everybody go check out what Halie's doing. And we'll hopefully maybe meet up in real life at some point.
Deal. I'm down for it.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.